So today we're going to deep dive into 3 recent SCR releases. Stick around. So welcome to the Meeting Underground. We're going to look at these 3 different projects that we put out in the last period of time here since our last Meeting Underground episode. So we're going to look at these 3 songs. I'm going to kind of give you some background, give you kind of the development of these songs. The first of the songs we're going to talk about is Dig Down Deep. Dig Down Deep is interesting to me, lyrically a little different than anything I've done. Therefore, it's got a good reason to talk about it. But the song originally came from ideas that I woke up with. Now, a lot of times my place of inspiration is when I'm going into or coming out of sleep. And for this song, it was the same thing. The issue was I had some manual labor that I had to do the next day, which started fairly early. And here it is a couple hours for me to get up to do that. And I was so tired. And I really wanted to continue to sleep. So these words started coming, and I was almost slipping up, but I almost didn't stick with it, which is an issue, I have to tell you, as you're an artist. You don't get second shots at a lot of stuff. As an artist, you learn to adapt, you learn to cater to, and give ground to, and cooperate with inspiration. I've said that a lot of times in a lot of episodes, but that's the centerpiece of my life as an artist, is that you learn to obey. Not obey, follow. Obey is another way of looking at it, but you learn to cooperate with it and value it. And so you give yourself to it. This song came in a few lyrics that, words that were coming and I wasn't sure. Sometimes they're just poems that I write. And this one was Dig Down Deep. And I was thinking, dig down deep beneath the thoughts that you're thinking. And I went, whoa. And I was just thinking about these personal things I had been going through and I've gone through in the past that, you know, like we tend to not connect with what's in deeper parts of our heart. And in this song, that was kind of what it was about. I kind of took it as my own progress and thing. And I wrote it, I started writing. So I grabbed my phone, pulled out my Evernotes, so I do it, and I began writing the words that I was inspired to write. And sure enough, next hour and a half, I wrote this whole thing about Dig Down Deep that is really different. I don't know if I've heard any song quite like it. It's almost like a therapy session where you dig down to the things that are beneath the surface and you find those things and root them out and get to the heart of the matter. And then when you do those things, you find places where you find a joy and a release. It's like, as in my Christian faith, it's that, you know, Jesus promised that if you would continue in the truth, that means continue in it. Put it into practice. That he said you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And I found that is absolutely true. It doesn't, whatever faith or view of it you have, all of today's psychology deals with those issues of us digging down, of getting to the root of things, of facing things that you haven't faced, and that's where freedom's at. Well, that's what this whole song is. I've never quite heard a song like it. So that's what I ended up with. Now, I took that song and I brought it to work with me, and I thought about it during the day, and I kind of revised it in my alert, awakened consciousness of it. I tried to fix it. And so I ended up with a version of it that was quite different. By the end of the day, I got together and I tried to reconcile them together into one, and I realized that almost everything that was kept was what came out of my dream state, what came out of the raw stuff. There was a few things for order and clarity that I changed, but that was basically the original was how this song ended up. So that's how the song Dig Down Deep became a song. Took it into my process of recording and developed beat and tempo and what kind of style and all those things that I wanted to do. And that's how we came up with the audio version of Dig Down Deep. Now the video is very interesting, again, to me. All this stuff fascinates me. The creative process is one of the most fascinating things that you can go through, and you that do it and live it know it. It's just amazing. It's like you're connected to something that is different, and it's outside yourself, and it's amazing, and you get to be part of it. That's how I look at it. Well, video creation, I always look at video creation now as it's a separate work of art. It's a separate creation, and I don't try to necessarily put images directly from the song. Sometimes that works, but most often it doesn't. So you find a way to create a new piece of art, which would be the video. And the video itself enhances the original song, but it also shines at it, maybe looks at it from another angle. So I looked into all kinds of ways of doing it, and I was coming up with nothing. And everything that I collected and wanted to do did not work. Then I started going back, like I've done in the past, through old vintage silent film stuff. Silent films that are public domain. You can use them. They're available to use if you want to, and if they're of value, you can use them. I've done a lot of that stuff, especially in the past. But this one, I was just going through, and I was drinking my coffee, and I was going through all of these old films, and I saw something that said The Grimm Game, and I went, what's that? And it mentioned Houdini's name, and I was going, whoa, that's what struck me about it. That's what made me stop, pull it up, watch it, and then eventually download it and use it. This Grimm Game footage is public domain, and as of up till 2013, there was no full film left of this movie. There was only these 4 minutes, this public domain 4 minutes of film. Since then, it has been bought up by Turner Broadcasting, bought it, and now they have released it as a full film. Doesn't change the fact that this footage, though, was public domain, and so I took it. It's a film starring Harry Houdini. There's a lot of controversy around the film itself, but it's also exciting that you got to film this footage of Harry Houdini. In the footage, what you see is Houdini comes running up to a biplane, and he's pointing up in the sky, and he's looking for his fiancée, who has been taken away by some dastardly character in another biplane. And so he jumps in this plane, they fly off after it. He does this daring stunt work of swinging down from a rope from one plane to another, and then as he joins them and joins the other and assaults that plane to get his fiancée back, there's this plane crash that crashes to the ground. Now, the controversy was this film was put out in 1919. So what they said was that this was an actual plane crash that they did not plan. That's how they released it to the public. And that no one was hurt. Everyone survived the plane crash. But then after the crash, they decided to rewrite it into the script, and there it is. The film footage ends up with this crash of this plane, and the smoke fills the air, and rising from the smoke is Harry Houdini with his fiancée in arms, and she looks at him, and they dream off, and that's the end of the film. Great footage. I love the footage. And later on, that same about that film, one of those involved with script writing for the movie, the actual movie, the original movie from 1919, later said it was always in the script that we wrote. So was it faked? Was it real? Was it ever? But that's how Houdini built his whole career. And so it's interesting. But when I took that film and I put it in with Dig Down Deep, something happened, and it was interesting. And so this 4-minute film footage, I chopped it into sequence into the song Dig Down Deep, and it came up with this video. I like the video. I actually like the video a lot. And we've had a lot of comments. It's already ran its cycle. We've already promoted it. But it has its it has its strengths, and that's how the song came about. A lot of interesting twists. There's a joy that you've never known before, placed there deep, way beneath that prison floor. There's a song, it's still waiting to be sung. From the truth you'll find there once that prison dig down deep. So the next thing we're going to look at now is the video that we released called The Wall. The Wall is so full of irony. I find a lot of people scratching their head, don't understand, question about what does it mean, all this stuff. So this is how it came about. originally this was done, I put this together as a video, just as a spoof kind of a video, several years ago, 5-6 years ago. And when I did it, it was all a tongue-in-cheek thing. It actually said at the end a T&C production, which tongue-in-cheek. The whole thing was kind of a joke, sort of, but it ended up being a little more ironic than that. So what you find in here is this film, The Wall, which is not, it has nothing to do with Pink Floyd. It has nothing to do with that at all. It's a documentary that had come out back in 1962 that had to do with the Berlin Wall. But the funny thing was how much that video, as we chopped it in, fit into the soundtrack. Now the soundtrack is all a joke. The soundtrack are 3 songs that I edited to sound like they were a live performance. That's the funny thing about it. And it was all a spoof, sort of. I don't know. This is where my head was when I was doing it. It was to put this together, this thing. I did 3 songs, end to end, edited together with audience sound and applause and all that stuff, to where it sounds like a concert that you're sitting at. Well, okay, originally that's what we did. And I put in there, it's a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it was misunderstood. Somebody, and then one of the footage we put at the beginning is this giant performance thing. Someone said, "That's the Grateful Dead." I said, "Really?" But it was a joke. The whole thing, it was a little too serious, I guess, for a joke, so people didn't get it. And anyway, recently I was going through old productions, old video that we did. I came around to it and I thought, well, it's time to do something with this. We've been taking videos and working them and doing them in this new sharpened higher def VEHD format. And you've been seeing that. We put that in, you'll see it on the video, because it's the treatment of the video, higher resolution, sharper contrast, and all that kind of stuff. So I saw it and I thought, well, let's do something with this. So I began working on that, and I thought, funny thing is, today we're in this quarantine with COVID-19 and stuff, and the suggestion has been that they can do live performances at drive-in theaters, which is really cool, and it's been happening around the world, different places where there's been outdoor live performances. So I thought what it would be funny is maybe to take this original creation of this thing, The Wall, with this band called the Hell Stompers, and put that on a drive-in screen. So that's what we ended up doing. We put it on a drive-in screen, and I wrote something like the original drive-in concert with a question mark. Well, it's what it is. But I thought it would be interesting because the thing that makes the song a bit provocative is, and current and maybe controversial a little bit, but mostly somewhat cultural, is this concept of the wall. And today, this image, this metaphor of a wall, or even the actual thinking of what a wall is, having to do with like the wall at the southern border and the controversy and the differences of opinions about that. So that wall and what it represents and all of the things that it means, those are serious issues and seriously thought about. So that's one level of the wall. And then we referenced The Wall by Pink Floyd, and that's a different reference of a wall. That's the story of a guy named Pink, and it's about him building a wall to hide himself behind, to cut himself off, not to interact because of like a father that wasn't there and a mother who's overbearing. And the whole song is this image of that kind of a wall. So you have that metaphor of a wall, which I think is interesting, and it's very relevant to our culture now. And I was reading an article by this writer, this Latino writer, and she was saying this whole issue of the Pink Floyd wall was a whole thing about the need that we have as individuals to interact in culture and to be a part of one another, and that's part of what feeds us and grows us as human beings. That concept is being challenged right now because of the quarantine, and people are starting to show, in areas are showing signs of the breakdown, because we need relationships. We need to interact with one another. And so that's the wall of the Pink Floyd, which it wasn't a song about, but it referenced that. The third thing is the actual documentary about this that's in this video called The Wall, which was done by, I think, it was done in 1962 by it was a documentary that examined the beginning of the building of the wall. Now that wall, the Berlin Wall, was erected by the Soviets who had occupied East Germany. And so they built a fence and a wall, and it went in stages. But this documentary examines what it was like when the Soviets separated families and friends. And this whole video is about how the friends would talk back and forth and signal one another, and then they kept trying to sneak people out of the Soviet side of the things, East Berlin side, into the West to join their families. And this documentary examines all that. In the rendition on the drive-in, it was more just sequenced to fit the songs that were there. Even though the songs in this video, the live performance songs, the truth is that they're actually very serious songs that we've recorded and things like that I wrote. So you have, in this documentary film, it was the wall that the Soviets kept built to keep people from leaving. Now that's a different. So you have a wall in the southern border that is to control the people that come in, and who comes in, who doesn't. It's about people coming in. The wall of Pink Floyd is about the walls we erect, and then the wall of this documentary is about the Soviets building a wall to keep people from leaving. What a bunch of irony in all of that. So the video, it just ends up being what it is. And the reason I like that we put it out again is that it just makes people think. And that was the whole purpose of this video, The Wall.
Like a shelter from the wind and rain, and the medicines for ills and pain. Like the raindrop on the desert floor, just a little taste, your thirst for more. A little bit of love will break down the hottest stone in the highest wall, shatter the defenses that you built to keep you from the fall.
So, Beat Down These Gates. That's the most recent song that we put out, both in audio and video form, and it had its own story. The song has been a song that Blind Drifter Lucas played for a while. It was written several years ago, and it was more in a folk format. So it was this folk song, and it was a folk gospel song. So I originally wrote the song. It came out of some real personal things that I was dealing with, and dealing with obstacles and that kind of thing. And I wrote it almost like as a prayer, and I woke up again and I sat on the side of my bed and almost wrote the whole thing. And then we turned it into a folk song, but it was all this, I will not back down. I'm not going to back off. I'm not going to back down. I'm going to continue. Nothing will stop what I'm doing. It's a mindset that comes out of the scripture, and the issues of like where it says, for instance, the scripture says, a misunderstood scripture, I believe, my opinion, that people say, where Jesus said, upon this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. So it's talking about a spiritual encounter that would go on through history. But the issue was, where I see it's misunderstood, is that the idea of is that gates are not on the offensive. That's an eye-opener. It's that people of faith are coming up against evil, and the gates will not prevail. They will not prevail against the offensive onslaught of those of light. The issue is, again, obstacles, overcoming. So the song was a song that was about, it was a gospel song. a little different kind, but it was a gospel song. We played it for a long time. Recently came back and I was looking at the original video of that was this video of Buster Keaton, and it was just funny. It kind of went with the song, but I thought it was time to take that song and reproduce it, recreate it, reinvent it, and so that's what we did with this version of Beat Down These Gates. The audio came about, just those kinds of things do, examining tempo and beat and what kind of song we wanted to make it and all that kind of thing. So I did all that, worked on all of that, ended up with this song that I really am happy with. It's a rock song, like let's say a Zeppelin-ish rock song meets U2. So there's those kinds of elements in it. And we released that audio on Drupal, on my Jail Song page. So a single, that's how we released it. So when it comes to creating the video, I found these 3 different actors, and they were in these various scenes of boxing. And I thought that would be really an interesting thing to do. Now the interim video is this unique place where there's these clocks, and it's all done in sped up motion and stuff, so that these clocks are moving, which gives the idea of the thing that's being fought against is that we are all finite and we all only have so much time. And then in the bridge of the song, you have this barcode scanning with a film projector behind it. And I'll leave that to you. It just seemed interesting, according to the times we're in and all the kinds of things that we're in, that was elements that seemed to speak at something of itself. So in this video, it ends up being these boxing segments mixed into this larger context of time and cityscapes. And what we came up with is this video that stands alone. And one of our viewers that watched the video said, she come back and says, I get it, positive, being positive and aggressive. Nothing can stand in your way if you continue. And I went, yeah, that's what it came across. We're going to show that video in our final segment of this show. So there you go. There's 3 songs, 3 things delved into them. Maybe it's a deep dive, I guess, but that's what we did. This is the Media Underground. We thank you for joining us. Until next time, go in peace.
I will not back up, back down, back off, or back away. I will beat down these gates and I will not give ground, give way, give up, or ever give in. I will beat down these gates, they surely break. They surely break. These hellish gates, they surely break. And I will not stop, step back, step aside, nor stay away. I will beat down these gates and I will not calm down, cool off, cool it, or give up a chase. I will beat down these gates, they won't prevail. They won't prevail. These gates of hell, they won't prevail. I'm gonna beat down these gates of hell, kick down these gates of hell. We're gonna beat down these gates, throw down these gates of hell. Blow down these gates of hell, we're gonna beat down these gates. They surely break, they surely break. These hellish gates, they surely break. They won't prevail, they won't prevail. These gates of hell, they won't prevail. I will not back up, back down, back off, or back away. I will beat down these gates and I will not give ground, give way, give up, or ever give in. I will beat down these gates, they surely break. They surely break. These hellish gates, they surely break. gonna beat down these gates of hell. Kick down these gates of hell. We're gonna beat down these gates. Go down these gates of hell. Go down these gates of hell. We're gonna beat down these gates. They won't prevail. They won't prevail. These gates of hell. They won't prevail. They surely break. They surely break.